what is becoming who you are mean to me? Logo is the tree of life. So think about a seed. A seed has encoded within it the instructions for becoming a tree. The difference between us is that we have this ability to choose what we're going to become or where we're going to go, these different paths. And so am I going to listen and let my ego lead, or am I going to let spirit lead? It's not just service to self, it's service to others. It's not just about my momentary pleasures, but about what actually satisfies me in the long run. And so there's a line of growth there. At the core, we are love, we are good, and that we want to be altruistic and help each other and heal and grow and care about everything. And it's not just about ourselves. The survival of me is survival of everyone, is working together, not this tribalistic mindset.
Welcome to the Mindform Podcast, where we delve into the minds of some of the most interesting people on the planet, discuss psychology, philosophy, and personal growth, and share the wisdom we uncover with you. Join us as we explore the art of forming our minds. Here's your host, Frank Lawton.
Kia ora from New Zealand. Welcome to the Mindform Podcast, an extension of the Mindform Collective and training platform. This podcast is similarly a space dedicated to exploring and altering psychological landscapes together. In each weekly episode, I speak with a member of Mindform to extract wisdom, refine ideas, and collaborate on the game of architecting our minds. This week's guest is Kendall McCullough. So Kendall is a new member of Mindform. However, his path has overlapped with ours for some time. He studied English and psychology at university, but after experiencing what he describes as a Kundalini awakening, which I know a little bit about the idea, but I'm curious to hear more what that meant to him. He now works as a life coach and hosts his own podcast called Becoming Who You Are. Some of you listeners might recognize that as being similar to one of the books written by the founder of Mindform, Ryan Bush, called Become Who You Are. And yeah, this unites many of us on Mindform, this concept of exploring and uncovering and actualizing yourself. So Kendall's journey, philosophy, and coaching leans heavily into the felt and the spiritual, understanding this Become Who We Are journey to be bottom up, a journey of direct encounter with signals that come from within us. So today I'm excited to explore Kendall's growth journey and see how the essential spiritual dimension of his personal empowerment intersects with the tangible work of his coaching and the analytical understandings of psychology as well. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Mindform Podcast, Kendall. In the spirit of nonviolent communication, which is the topic on Mindform at the moment, I'll ask you, what is alive in you right now?
Thanks. Glad to be here. That's a good question. Yeah, I'm working on my life coaching business, and it's almost like another layer of working on yourself and going deeper. And there's been a lot of inner child work lately. So that's what's really been on my mind and been processing.
Right. Yeah, you feel like that stuff's stewing in the background even as we speak, perhaps. Yeah. Sounds like good real work, man. Awesome.
Yes.
Great. Well, let's just start off by entering the landscape of your mind. So tell us, about your journey to starting your coaching business, which is called Rooted Awakening Coaching, I believe. And what are some of the key learnings and experiences that have steered and driven you to where you are now?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I grew up Christian, and I've always been a big reader, and so pursuit of truth, pursuit of understanding, religion, spirituality, psychology, all the things. And I was an English major in undergrad, and so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just know I liked reading, and writing was a way of processing my inner landscape and understanding myself.
Absolutely.
I went to grad school once, and I had a lot of mental and emotional issues, from childhood, and then I just felt pressure to do a certain thing, and I wasn't really familiar with myself enough to know what I really wanted. So I'm just kind of going down the path, and I'm like, oh, I'm smart. Maybe I'll be an English professor. My mom recommended I go to grad school. I'm here. But I had a lot of mental, emotional issues, anxiety and depression and imposter syndrome, all the things. And grad school is a tough place to be if you don't really know what you want to do. And also it's not easy on the mental, emotional health. And I enjoyed it, but I was starting to see how it was unbalanced, how it was very intellectual based, which I did enjoy, but I was starting to think about more holistic thinking, starting to get interested in the Eastern way of thinking. Also was seeing kind of a dryness in my beliefs, in my practice of Christianity, and wondering where was the aliveness, where was the spirit, where was the connection, wasn't there really. Um, and I was really trying to, after a really rough first year and really struggling, I was trying to work on my mental, emotional, spiritual health in the second year, really trying to work on my relationship with God, trying to change my brain to thinking more positively, into working also with like not being motivated by last second procrastination and get things done. Um, And so I was meditating every day. I was praying. I was reading the Bibles, listening to music. I was listening to my thoughts and trying to reshape them. And that did help. But at the end of the semester, I still felt so far behind and felt really kind of despairing almost. And growing up, when I thought about like adulthood, I saw like black. I couldn't see like a future of me doing well. And I still had that in mind. And I ended up reading this blog. It was called Brain Pickings at the time. Now it's called the Marginalian, something like that. And it's like excerpts of books and healing and growth and spirituality and that type of thing. And I got into a flow state, and I read from 8 in the morning till 4:30 at night. Um, and realized it was really late, so I went to bed and I was just meditating, trying to calm down. And I had a Kundalini awakening where my body was shaking, with energy, with love, joy, ecstasy. And, I thought I heard a voice in my head tell me a little bit. And I was like, wow. And I went to sleep, and I thought maybe that was God. And in the morning, I felt amazing. I went off my Adderall cold turkey. I had lots of energy. I spent the next month, my Christmas break, and experiencing all kinds of things, and having all kinds of synchronicities. But I got really ungrounded. Wasn't eating or sleeping much, and I got confused, and I ended up in the hospital, diagnosed with bipolar 1, ended up in the psych ward. And kind of went through the dark night of the soul for 5 years. I didn't really understand what had happened to me, all my beliefs. I went through an emotional deconstruction. Nothing of my beliefs made sense. And it was really, really tough. And eventually, just trying to pick up my life from the basics, I got off meds and kind of came to myself and thought maybe becoming a therapist is what I wanted to do. So I went to grad school again. But I was also starting to think about heaven, the idea of heaven. And Christians don't really explore that topic very much, or what that means. So I was starting to go into that. And a counselor I had in undergrad recommended this book on near-death experiences. And I read that as part of my research, and it really connected with the experiences I had in my Kundalini awakening, and the synchronicities and realizations about reality I had back then. So I gave myself permission to kind of go outside of my faith that I knew at the time, and explore these different topics, quantum physics and energy and reincarnation and all kinds of stuff. And so I started to kind of reshape my beliefs. And during that time, I also did a lot of healing work with my childhood, with my parents, with my religion, with all these things. Really feeling a lot of shame growing up, feeling like not being heard or understood, my voice. And I explored a lot of different somatic and energy healing modalities, different stuff like that. And eventually realized that coaching was more my lane, and just the limits of current therapy, and dealing with insurance, dealing with the DSM, which I don't totally agree with, and kind of also like really wanting to thrive and also look into spirituality, which most of therapy doesn't really address. And so I entered training for coaching and learned a lot about transpersonal psychology and spirituality and the connection psycho-spiritual. And so I know that growing up I was really into religion and spirituality and having grand ideas, but I had trouble idealizing, making them a reality, manifesting, and being practical in the step by step and being rooted. So that's how I came up with the name of my coaching is, how can we help people
Rooted
awaken to the
awakening.
truth of reality and the spiritual and oneness and all these things, but how can we do that in a rooted way to help hopefully not end up in a psych ward and ground these principles and how can we utilize this these understandings of reality in a practical way. Really a long answer, but that's my story.
No, that was exactly the kind of answer I was looking for, Kendall, and I'm blown away actually at how much I see my own story and my own journey in yours. There's an incredible amount of overlap. I'm ADHD diagnosed when I was kind of young as well, and also endlessly curious, the big questions, that sort of thing, and going into university, feeling dissatisfied, noticing something that the first thing you said that really made me empathize, I suppose, with my own experience to yours is not really knowing even what you want, and that for a long time was a real marker of my life and my experience, and the sort of the anxiety and the ungroundedness that comes out of that. I sought really hard, and I did all the same things. A lot of meditation. I was listening to podcasts and reading books and self-help, and I was tracking my thoughts. And I took a lot of interest in sort of spirituality and different ways of modeling and understanding that. So it was a very, very similar path. And I also, I think I was rescued a little bit from ending up in that same sort of manic that dislocated awakening experience. I had a few almost awakenings, and perhaps you can relate to this in your just in the moments before your Kundalini experience, that there's a little bit of terror there, that it takes some conviction and some willingness and some presence to push through, and the terror is, okay, if I drop all of these thought processes, all of these assumptions, am I going to lose my mind? And it's not an uncommon experience. I actually met someone maybe a few months ago who had a similar experience of having a really profound and legitimate kind of Kundalini awakening experience, where they were meditating a lot, and they also used sort of other yogic practices in this, and they were ecstatic and for a long period of time, and it was beautiful. But it slowly, this instability was under it, and it slowly sort of started that poison, I guess, at the base of that tree just slowly started spreading throughout, and so it's interesting that can happen, and I suppose it makes sense, when someone in our situation, someone who is full of uncertainty, I suppose, or that ungroundedness, gets the clarity and the certainty and the joy and the happiness that normally kind of only integrates in a whole system way when you have some clarity and some sense of self, grounding that. That I can imagine that can be really destabilizing. Anyway, it's crazy, the similarities. And I was studying psychology, and my mates went into going into clinical psychology, and I was like, nah, I think coaching is more my vibe, although I don't actually do coaching at the moment. But so yeah, a lot of similarities. Crazy that.
Yeah.
I'm just blown away, and actually when I kind of explored a bit about you before you jumped on the podcast here, I first picture I saw of you, I thought, I think there's something really similar in this guy's psychology, this guy's yearning, which is actually what I want to ask you about next. So that's your journey. That's that gives us a sense of your story and where you've been going and why, and sort of the mountains you've climbed and the valleys you've crawled your way through as well. So I just want to paint a little picture for you. So that's consider a map and a landscape. Consider that metaphor. So that's your landscape. It represents your journey through life, and all the things you encounter and the direction you're heading in. But the map represents your beliefs and the goals with which you navigate. Right. So in this journey, you've updated your map a number of times. I'm sure you talk about sort of changing your perspectives and understandings around spirituality and faith, for example, and sort of realizing new things about yourself. And you've also certainly reached some new destinations, doing something that you're quite proud of now. But the question is, where is the X on your map? So where have you been trying to get to this whole time? What state of things have you been aiming for, or what question have you been seeking the answer for as a thread through this whole journey?
Mm. Yeah, great question. I like the Terrence McKenna reference. That's always been really profound to me over the last few years. But yeah, so I think that I'm always trying to become, or in the process, becoming who I am, and that's what I strive to do. And I think it's a Rumi quote, something about like, the more I searched for God, the more I found myself. The more I searched for myself, the more I found God, and really resonates with me. And so it's just deconditioning all the things that are not me, or the limiting beliefs, and following spirit or intuition or God, or whatever you want to call it. And following my bliss, following my pain. There's a lot of paradoxes, but the
Totally.
goal of growth and healing and union.
So is it sort of like there's the sense that there's something within you that you're looking for, that's something hopeful and something good, and you know that you haven't fully uncovered or found it, but that sort of feels like there's something there that's drawing you to it.
Yeah. So it kind of goes into one of the other questions on the email about like, what is becoming who you are mean to me. So
Yeah, go ahead. I'm curious.
My logo is the tree of life, and rooted awakening. So think about a seed. A seed has encoded within it the instructions for becoming a tree. The difference between us is that we, well, I can't speak for a tree, but we have this ability to choose what we're going to become or where we're going to go, these different paths. And so am I going to listen and let my ego lead, or am I going to let spirit lead? And I guess Ryan has I also like the way Ryan frames it. It's like, if you really follow who you truly are, become who you are, your ego, or my words, ego becomes spirit. It's like, it's not just service to self, it's service to others. It's not just about my momentary pleasures, but about what actually satisfies me in the long run. And so there's a line of growth there. And yeah, so I do believe, like, at the core, we are love, we are good, and that we want to be altruistic and help each other, and heal and grow and care about everything. And if we want to, even just like survival, it's not just about ourselves. The survival of me is survival of everyone, is working together, not this tribalistic mindset. So yeah.
Yeah, I really like this. It's been an ongoing conversation and Mindform, this idea of the ego, and is the ego something you want to deconstruct or transcend or empower? And I think the way you articulate it, of ego becomes spirit, articulates a bit of a reconciliation of those apparently contradictory ideas. The words just don't quite capture it. I mean, there's our thinking process is very useful. It works for us. It's handy to draw categories. It's handy to set aspirations. And it's handy to sometimes look at our environment in terms of what it is we want or what it is we believe. That's a useful tool. But sort of to recognize that when you that well, I'm sort of on the same page as you and as Ryan, who's listening. I think you've seen him in the chat, which is nice. That when you get to a place of like truly being in touch with, and then truly expressing and living out whatever your highest values are, whatever it is that truly sings to you as beautiful and important, good, that that sort of reconciliation of all of these conflicts cascades up through the whole psyche, and that toolkit, which can totally harm us, this whole ego toolkit is obviously causes people a lot of harm, but I think to themselves and to others. But it we once we orient it to our core values, it can just do that, and it can serve us, and it can be it's kind of like the idea, which I used to bring up in like every single podcast episode. I don't know if you've read I've got the book here. If you've read this book, Ian McGilchrist's The Master and His Emissary. Excellent book.
I haven't
but
read
it's
it.
About it's an excellent book about the sort of right brain, left brain dynamic, and it's the sentiment is that the right brain is much more bottom up. It's felt, it's responsive, it's integrative, and the left brain is reductive and outcome oriented, and that's fine. That's a good team to have, but oftentimes it's destructive when the left brain becomes sort of in charge. But when the right brain's in charge, when our spirit, when our self, when our whole self is in charge, then these parts that we create, these egos and identities that we build, are so, and can be so beautifully in service of that. And there's nothing to run from there. So I love it. I think that's awesome. I want to know a bit more about how you do that, like in practical, action-based terms, or maybe you can refer to some rituals or processes or whatever it is. How have you worked on becoming who you are?
Yeah. Well, I think it might be helpful to kind of refer to my model of change, my coaching model.
Go for it. Yeah.
There's 4 parts. There's awakening. There's what's the second one? It's the individuation of young, and then grounding, and then transformation. And it's funny, the more I find out about Jung, I'm like, wow, my model's just plagiarizing Jung basically. But he's great, and I love him, so like it's no surprise really.
Perhaps there's just something true you guys are both describing.
Yeah, right. And which is like in the spiritual journey you find is the case. It's more of a uncovering of what is true, rather than like, oh, I'm discovering it myself. But yeah, so it's awakening to a new level, a new layer of yourself, or the truth of reality. People have different types of awakenings. Like mine was a Kundalini awakening. Some people have a dark awakening of the matrix, or systems that are causing harm. The conspiracy kind of awakening. There's a conviction, that's like an inner realization of our shadow or ego. And then there's that awakening to like my spirit within me. And so we can utilize these things. If someone's coming to coaching, they're having some realization that things need to change in some way. And so how can we use that and clarify what is going on there? And we can simplify it down to the spirit is giving us a message, and so how can we follow that? And then the second stage is, you were talking about like the left right brain, or yin and yang, the masculine and feminine. There's a billion ways of describing it, but it's kind of like duality. It's what is society, my parents, religion, all these outside influences, what are they telling me, how they shape me? And I mean, there's good areas to that, but how have I let go of my own power, my own sovereignty, and listening to the spirit and who I'm supposed to be, and what do I want to shove off, and what do I want to become, and then the rooted stage is just like, what habits am I doing that are not supporting me in this process, and then what habits do I want to create? And it can be very simple things, sunlight, sleep, eating, social, spiritual practices, habits, stuff like that. But whenever we're in the process of transformation, we really need these grounding things to help us.
Absolutely.
And yeah, as we come to conscious, it's important that we also learn to access more love, or we're just going to judge ourselves more and create this inner turmoil and inner war. And yeah, transformation, just like, let's review the whole process. How are we listening to spirit? How's that going? What are things that are coming up, blocks or parts of ourselves, parts work, and somatic stuff is a big part of my coaching. And, are we listening to dreams, our relationships to other people, our attachment style dynamics, triggers, also realizing like what are the gifts that we're realizing within ourselves, and are we continuing to cultivate and use those, or what are areas that are challenging for us that we want to lean into. And so, yeah, it's been the same. I came up with this model because it's what I observed my own journey in. And, I've been learning, like lives taught me a lot, through experiences and dealing with authority, with my own inner power, boundaries, my attachment styles, learning to be more practical, grounded. How can I take step by step? How can I stay in the moment? How can I appreciate equally all the different areas of life, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and not bypass any one aspect? How can I balance things? Yeah, all of that.
Awesome. Yeah, I love that framework, and it definitely, yeah, I mean, it speaks to something that I've observed as well. It's certainly not just a construct, but an articulation of how change and transformation works and how it lasts as well. I mean, I think that earlier in the call, talking about these things that I sense we have in common, I've certainly gone through many experiences earlier in my life, and where there's been a lot of awakening and individuation with no grounding, and it's not only not only is that ultimately somewhat fruitless, not entirely, but mostly, it's also really disheartening and kind of soul crushing to know and see what is good and true and beautiful and the potential that you have, but to kind of repeatedly fail to see that realized in the world can be quite a painful experience. And I think it's a common experience for neurodiverse people, for people with ADHD who just haven't had the good fortune of sort of developing some of those skills of grounding and actuation. So yeah, really, really cool, that component. And I think myself, and it sounds like you as well, sort of reached a stage of life where grounding is certainly very appreciated as part of the process. And it's a joy. I find it's I'm interested in your thoughts on this. Deep and incredible and moving awakening and sort of new understandings about yourself and new sense of direction is really, really a beautiful thing, and it's a great pity when that's totally absent in people's lives. But I've started to find that I get much more joy out of just focusing on the little bits of that and actualizing that than because it's a bit tumultuous for me, as opposed to do this discovery and have this conviction and write and read and chat about all of this over and over and get really excited. I find it's better to just go small but make it happen, and that the lasting and deep and really perspective shifting, like stably perspective shifting transformation comes out of grounding something, even if it's small. Is that your experience?
Oh yeah. A big word that's been coming up in my mind lately is embodiment. And I'm a podcast host as well, and I have it every 2 weeks. And to be honest, sometimes I get sick of myself. I get sick of my words, and I'm like, I think it's easy to talk about these things, and it's fun and it's great and it's helpful to some degree, but like it doesn't mean anything until we embody it in our life. And so sometimes our body's like, hey, you know what? You're not embodying this. You're just talking about it. And then it's like, ouch. But it's good. It's convicting. And then that helps
That
us be like,
hurts.
okay, yeah, how can I
And that's its
actually
own awakening, isn't it?
exactly. So how can I embody this? And I think Jung actually says something about like have all the theories, have all the things, study all this, read all this, but like whenever you meet someone, just meet them as a person. And same with
Yeah.
ourselves. Like I can have these big theories and big ideas, all this stuff, but like what is spirit just telling me right now, just moment to moment, and how can I really hone in and get detailed and really deep in this one aspect instead of trying to conquer it all at one time, which doesn't work.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's okay, well this is maybe a bit controversial, but so you talked about your bipolar, that diagnosis that you received when you had your Kundalini awakening, and it's in my family just a little bit, bipolar, and my uncle had it, and I found I was really trying to. I was in a sort of phase of my intellectualism of, and I still am a little bit, of trying to understand as much as possible any given abnormal psychology in terms of the phenomenal inner experience, and how perhaps you could consider it understandable or justified based on the perspective taken by the person who then behaves in abnormal ways. And so I wanted to understand bipolar in those terms, because also I was seeing in my life, I was seeing in these swings between just what you described. These big ideas, trying to do it all at once, the strong sense of conviction, grinding myself down to bare bone, and my enthusiasm and my sort of grit, and then going through a phase of sort of disheartenedness and depression because I noticed how far I was from
Huh.
this exciting
Right.
aspiration that I'd felt, and
Haven't
how
reached
hard it
my
was
ideals
to
yet.
sort of close that gap. Yeah,
uh,
and then you give up, and then you get really. This was a long phase of my life, honestly, and you get really frustrated then after a few weeks or days or whatever of how your life looks when you give up, and so and then I'm gonna do all this, and then that gets tiring, and it's just back and forth. So I was like, I don't want to like have bipolar like my uncle, basically. And is that where this is going? So I did some research, and someone had that sort of understanding, way of understanding his own experience that struck me as making sense, I suppose, intellectually and experientially, which is something like basically that there's a great gap between your belief of what you're capable of, and your sort of expectations or standards or aspirations, and then your actual sort of self-esteem and your sense of your and your confidence, or that sort of thing. So just the huge gap there can kind of lead to that, and that just made sense to me, I guess, my own experience of leading to those swings of highs and lows. It's a bit controversial because bipolar is specifically a disorder that's really generally just understood as being in the professional space, people really just want to understand it as a brain transmitter
right.
thing. But yeah, that's just my experience, and I suppose that's just to speak to it can be really, really destructive and destabilizing and disturbing, I think, to our psyche, to our mind, to ourself, to try to do it all at once and get really,
Yeah.
really hopeful and get really
Yeah.
excited without grounding. Just do one small decent thing, and embodiment. That's a good word.
Yeah. Yeah. I think how I see that for myself anyways is just like that's a part of me, the childhood part that is trying to be perfect so that I will
Yeah.
not get judged, or that I'll be safe from other people who might judge. But the more I can, have compassion, it's another word that's becoming a lot, and love for myself, the more I can be secure in myself, so that it matters less and less what other people think, and that I'm safe within myself.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's totally what it is.
Yeah.
That's
Ryan
that's
did
true for me
he
too.
did have wanted to hear about the Jung influence
Yeah,
with
I just
the
saw that. Go ahead. I'm
yeah.
tell us
Uh,
more.
so okay, so actually Jung was a big he helped inspire AA. And he had a client who was an alcoholic, and um I forget his client's name, but he's the guy who started AA. But anyways, he tried to help this client so much, and then at one point he's like, you know what, I've done all I could. You need to go to a religion or a group of people and have a spiritual experience. Um, and the guy did, and he had a spiritual experience, and then he started AA. And so Jung called this psychic change, like when you have um, a profound spiritual experience. So I think that, and then Jung himself later had his own spiritual experience, and then he wrote the Red Book, and it was very feminine, intuitive, symbolic space of exploration and understanding of. And so Jung always, I would say those things, that's like the awakening part. He was really into that and understood the importance of that. And then, of course, he talked about the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, how we all have those energies within us, and it's important to bring those together. Um, I found this quote the other day. It's a little bit of a long quote, but I was just like, after reading this, I was like, wow, I just straight up stole from Jung. But he said, the alchemist saw the union of opposites under the symbol of the tree, and it is therefore not surprising that the unconscious of present day man, who no longer feels at home in this world, can base his existence neither on the past that is no more, nor on the future that is yet to be, should hark back to the symbol of the cosmic tree, rooted in this world and growing up to heaven, a tree that is also man. In the history of symbols, this tree is described as the way of life itself, a growing into that which eternally is and does not change, which springs from the union of opposites and by its eternal presence also makes that union possible. It seems as if it were only through an experience of symbolic reality that man, vainly seeking his own existence and making a philosophy out of it, can find his way back to a world in which he is no longer a stranger. So it's just like oneness and duality. The masculine way of thinking of making concepts and ideas and using that as a map, but then finding the territory, the feminine, the intuitive way back home, into oneness. Maybe that's my summary of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that that's and the Master and His Emissary. That's the diagnosis. So the book at the initial is a kind of a understanding of these different ways of processing, and then the sort of last third of the book is or something like a third, whatever, is a treatise, really a manifesto of we are too left brain, or you could use the term
Yep.
masculine, and many people would in our society today. And you think in the West we have sort of a patriarchal spirituality as well, and conception of how the world is created and what meaning is and what truth is. It's extremely top down. You can certainly relate if you just stick to the Gospels or whatever. You can certainly relate to Christ and the Christian understanding of reality in a feminine way and in a bottom up way and in a way that sort of returns one to a direct and non-dual experience. I've had that, but yeah, I think the way it exists in our culture today is very top down, very reductionist, very outcome oriented, um, which is totally, yeah. It's very destructive. Again, it's a useful tool. It's a useful tool, but I think we want to ground ourselves in that non-dual direct experience of reality. It's like it's sort of imagine. I mean, it's just that's the map and the territory. We live in the map. And you just need to put it down. The map might be fine. It's not inherently wrong to use a map, to be in the map. But if the map is wrong, which it always is a little bit, the only way to heal that, the only way to respond to that is just to put it aside, step into the territory, and see that infinitely complex reality with that you've then reduced to symbols, and maybe you'll experience something that challenges the way you've broken it down, or perhaps you will recognize just see something that you haven't incorporated into your map at all, whatever it is. Or perhaps you realize you drew something and you've been thinking it's quite important, but it's not even there.
Yeah.
Just to speak to all three kinds of delusion that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
Thanks, man. So I want to a little bit about your map, I guess. You've had these awakening experiences, and obviously a lot of this is that feminine return, that grounding, those awakening experiences. How has your map changed in the last 5 years? Like, what are the two biggest revisions you've made? What are the two biggest shifts in perspective you've had?
Yeah, I think, I guess coming at it, growing up Christian, just this idea of universalism, that everybody will return to the oneness of God. That basically, like, everything's okay. Everything's going to be okay. Everybody's going to experience bliss and oneness. And, even I don't understand exactly how that happens or what that means and what that looks like. But it's like, in the long run, things are outside of me making it happen, to some degree. And I can, like, have peace and joy and love that it's all going to be okay. And, it's not like half these people, or most people are going to go to hell and burn forever. Like, it's a terrible, traumatic belief. And so, yeah, it's just vastly relieving and helpful and, lovely idea and belief. And then another one is just like external authority.
Wait, before you go on, I want to hear a little bit about the experience that built that shift. So, I can definitely see how it could happen through the faith journey. There's a lot of people who grow up with a very moralizing faith, and it's fear-based, and sometimes you go on your own journey and you get a real spirituality, which is an encounter with love as a phenomenal experience, and that there's some truth in love that's external to you, and experiencing something like that. So, but what happened, I guess, that made you have the sense that, it's all going to be all right? It's an interesting conviction to have, and maybe hard to intellectually justify. So I'm curious.
Well, I mean, the first thing was just my Kundalini awakening, because it was, in your mind, you may think, God is loving, is unconditionally loving, but at the same time, there's all these subtle things within Christianity or maybe other belief systems that say that he's also not unconditionally loving. And the actual experience of that, and not just like unconditional, but like infinite and incomprehensible. And again, it goes back to this idea of feminine, of like your love infinitely, unconditionally, for just the way you are, not for anything you've done or who you are, or not as a human doing, but as a human being. It's just because you're part of God, and that's like who you are, is love. And it was more about deconditioning all my beliefs to trust in that experience, which also felt like more real, more reality than anything I've experienced ever before or since then. So it just goes down to having faith in that experience. But in my spiritual journey, I've also explored different religions, spirituality, people's experiences, near-death experiences, astral projection, all these things which help my masculine side, logical side, see how I can believe this and how it makes sense. And
No, that totally. And you're certainly not the only person to have that experience and to have the sense that it feels really true. I have two convictions that I've only just brought into the same room in my mind just now listening to you recently, which is, one is that our level of confidence correlates not at all with how likely we are to be correct. That's actually observed, which is interesting. So the first place that was observed was in like court stuff. So witness testimony, their level of confidence, it didn't correlate with how likely they were to be correct. Yet at the same time, I have this conviction that there's really something to the feels true. But I think it's different to just a confidence. And I'm going to try to describe that experience of it feeling true, and I want to hear if this is the same as what you've got.
Yeah.
Which gives you confidence. So you take on some, let's use it as let's say you can phrase it as a proposition, like everything is going to be all right. That's a fine one to use. And you sort of adopt that perception. So you might, whether you from nowhere or from God or from the base of yourself or raw perception, you get that perception. You place yourself in that perception somehow. And is it the case that when you look around the room or wherever it is that you happen to be, whilst having that lens, whilst having that filter on perception, does the world look more clear? Does it make more sense? Do you feel more present? Do you feel a greater sense of like sort of knowing how to navigate your immediate environment and knowing what decisions to make? And to me, that's what feels true is in that sense, is that when I, whether it comes from outside of me or I sort of adopt it intentionally with imagination, when I have that perception, the world is more vivid, it's alive, it makes more sense to me, and I feel more capable of navigating it. And if adopting a perception leads to that result, it's probably because it's true. I don't know. That's just what I think. I don't know
actually
why.
have that belief as well. I'm like, I don't care what people believe. If it is healing and growing, if it's helpful to them, that's the belief they should have. So yeah, basically like the same thing. Yeah. I think that, if we're in this fear mentality, if high nervous system, the world is dangerous, that type of thing, it's only helpful to a certain degree, but it narrows, when we're in fear, our vision narrows and we're more looking at ourselves. And I don't know. I think that there's still more nuance to probe. Like, there's times where fear can be really helpful and we need to like look out for our own needs. But in the long-term wide lens of things, like if we can be relaxed and be like, everything's okay, I think that it is more healthy and helpful.
Yeah. And I suppose it's similar to the masculine, feminine, or the left, right brain. It's like that useful tools, but where do you want to be rooted? Where do you want your base from which you can utilize those tools, step in and out? Ryan's just asked in the chat there, how do you know if a belief is going to be positive for you? Do you think you could bring out an answer to that question?
I think that there's it's kind of like what I was thinking where we're going, like with my belief that everything's going to be okay. It's faith, but it's not blind faith. So it's like, I don't totally know. I can't, if I'm totally honest, I can't be like, everything's going to be okay. Like, I know that 100%. How am I really to know that 100%? But from my experience and from my research, everything, I can have a level of certainty that I'm pretty sure that everything's going to be okay. So same thing with belief is like, I can't know for certain that this belief is going to be positive, but based on my experience and inference and using my left and right side of my brain, I can have some level of certainty that I think this will be positive. And then you test your hypothesis, just like science. Like, you have to start somewhere. So instead of being like, I'm not going to have any beliefs till I know it's positive, like, how are you going to get anywhere? So you gotta choose something, go for it, and then see the results and then adjust from there.
Absolutely. And just hold it lightly, I think, and it's a very left brain thing. We live in a time, or I don't know what the past was like. I wasn't there, but the world, people, there's a fear you adopt an identity or a path in life or a belief, and then that's you, and you've done that, and what if you're wrong? You're stuck there. It's like, no, you can, and in fact, Ryan, who asked the question in the chat, has spoken to this a little bit on Mindform, this idea of just what, instead of it being I believe it or I don't believe it, why not just like have a probability? Oh, I'm like 80%.
Yeah, that's what
the
I like
feeling
to do. I'm like,
that this is
now
true.
it's percentages. Like I have this belief and it's at
Yeah,
this
yeah.
percentage, and this other belief is more at this percentage, instead of
Yeah.
just be like,
And
yes
you just
or
gotta
no.
you gotta move, eh? You gotta live.
Right.
So you just go with that. Okay, if it's over 50, or maybe you need a bit more confidence than that. If it's over 60, 70, these numbers are a bit arbitrary anyway. But then you move, and if it's wrong, it's not, oh my God, I've built everything I'm doing in my whole life out of the conviction that's true. It's like, no, I knew that this might be wrong, and I can adjust a little bit. And I think that's an ability that perhaps we can have only if we've had a bit of that direct experience. I think if you've always lived in the map, you're sort of not able to recognize that the map is immobile, is mobile. It's not true. It's not fixed. It's
Right.
but once you've sort of stepped out of it, you can just recognize that it's a toolkit. Like beliefs seem, you could phrase that as a toolkit, and an excellent one, no doubt. Yeah. And my answer to your question, Ryan, how do you know if a belief is going to be positive to you? I try it on. Like I just imagine, I kind of sit in the room, I sit in the space. I'm like, hey, what if I sort of phrase to myself, what if everything here was the same, but this was true? Like I try to see where I am through the lens of that belief. And if that like works out for me for a little while, if I feel, if it's an emotional thing, maybe that's silly, but if I feel confident and capable, if things make sense, a little bit more sense to me, if things are a bit clearer, then I think, oh, it's probably going to continue to have this effect. Yeah.
It's a good Rumi quote. It's like, as you step out along the path appears, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. People people try to build the whole understanding before they've even set
I did
foot.
too. And I was like stuck in paralysis for a lot of life, and I'm like, I'm done with that. I mean, I'm in the process of doing that less and less, and just stepping out.
Same. I'm done with it. I'm done with it, like in principle, but it's totally
right.
a process.
Yeah.
There's so much fear of being wrong there.
Eh?
So what about with your clients? I mean, you've talked about your framework here: awakening, individuation, grounding, transformation. So when you're working in your coaching practice, do you sort of present this to your clients and say, like, are there particular things you sort of like activities or conversations, or maybe like spiritual practices or psychotextual, practices that you actually do at each of these phases to facilitate them?
Yeah, I like the word psychotextual. So it's really, as a coach, my job is to help you delve into yourself, be a mirror, and see your ego and see your spirit, and help do parts work, and be a whole individual, be individuated, like Jung said, and let your ego be the servant and the spirit be the guide. And so I'm asking a lot of questions, and I have the model in my mind, and I could be like, oh, okay, here's what we're addressing, or here's what we're going on. I might ask questions to help direct them, but I'm not just be like, here's the model, this is so structured. It's more like, what do you want today? What's that going to do for you? And then how can we take action on that? And what have we learned today? Like, those are common questions I try to ask every session, but really let the client guide, and trust them and ask them a lot of questions. And there might be times where I'm like, okay, here's something in my life, or something I've learned, but at the same time, they can take it or leave it. So it's really about helping them become their own coach and be led by spirit, rather than me tell them what to do or where to go, or this is the exact model we have to follow so religiously or whatever.
Yeah, totally understandable. And I had a good chat with someone who does coaching here on the podcast a few weeks ago, and we sort of, a big sentiment that carried through was, it's not about presenting the answers, it's about phrasing the right questions, right? And it's just sort of directing attention a little bit so they can find the ideas and the values and the truths that are in their own life and in their own experience, And each of these sort of phases that you've talked about, awakening, individuation, grounding, transformation, it's a process of just encountering and incorporating knowledge. And the way we do that is, it's through asking questions. And it's so helpful to do that with other people as well. Like I always feel like every time I'm having this experience, every time I'm like thinking about something new or questioning something, I just like call my sisters who I love so much, and we just chat about it. And the way that they just ask questions or try to understand it more, it allows me to like the process of articulating and the process of answering questions
we're
allows me
bringing
to
it's helping us bring our unconscious to conscious,
exactly
which we can
that's
miss
the
on
best
our
way to
own
articulate it.
sometimes.
Yeah, totally. It's very valuable to have people facilitating that experience. Okay, so coming back full circle a bit to this map landscape metaphor, which was actually really carried through school, which has been a bit of fun. What changes are you making to your map at the moment? So what new essential idea or truth are you looking into or questioning? We're always in this process, right, of awakening and incorporating.
Right.
So yeah, what are you doing right now?
Yeah. So, like I mentioned at the beginning, there's been a lot of inner child work. I think that, as I step into being an entrepreneur and coaching, um, then it's a new level of delving into self and facing my fears and all the things. And so, yeah, my inner child is, first it was lonely and it was fearful, saying, it's not safe to be expressive, be in your power, um, be in front of the public, in front of everybody, and do things that are uncomfortable, like do videos for Instagram, just to the camera. And I can see like my face is rigid. I'm not showing emotion. There's these ways that my body is like trying to be small because that's what was safe for me as a child. And so, paying attention to my body and my inner child and what it's saying, how can I meet that? And how can I reparent that part of myself and to be like, it's okay, it's safe. How can I comfort? How can I do things slowly, step by step, taking breaks when I need to? And yeah, I really dealt with that 1 week. And then the second week, I had a lot of anger. And it was like, oh, I wasn't supported. I wasn't allowed to be myself. All this. So it's like it's like the stages of grief, really. So it's like I dealt with a
Yeah.
lot of the fear and sadness. Now anger is coming up underneath that. So how can I just continue to pay attention to myself and work through that, and both not allow myself to um, get stuck in victim mentality, like it's these people's fault and I'm a victim, and I'm not going to do this. I'm a victim, and I'm incapable of moving through these emotions. But also, how can I not just banish that part of myself and be like, hey, it's time to work, it's time to do this, you're in the way, I'm going to ignore you. Which I know from experience, if you do that long term, you can only push so far before it comes raging back and takes over. And then you can't go forward with what your spirit's leading you to do. So it's that balancing. Yeah.
It's amazing how scary it is for us simply to just take responsibility for what it is we're feeling and what it is that we want and hope for, and just this is like, because that seems like the natural state to me, that like when I'm in that state it feels natural of, okay, this is what's important to me, this is how I'm feeling, that's on me, I'm going to go and try to make that happen in the world. That's aligned, that's natural. I mean, that's how a brain works. You have a target and you move towards it. But for whatever reason, and I think it's to do with violence and judgment in our world, we're really scared of doing that. And it's funny, I was just reading, so I mentioned at the start of this call, reading Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg on Mindform at the moment. And I was just reading in one of the chapters of his book, he talks about these sort of three phases of taking responsibility for our emotions. And it was just exactly mirrored what you just talked about, which is, that first phase is everything that's going on and other people's feelings, it's all my fault and it's all on me. Because it's, kids are narcissistic, quote unquote, in that regard. And it's,
right.
So that's okay. People get upset when I do or say this, so that's on me. I need to make myself small so that everyone else feels fine and nobody gets upset with me. And I need to become and be whatever it is that makes other people feel calm, because their feelings are my responsibility. And then, the next phase is anger. Rosenberg calls it the obnoxious phase, which is you realized that actually you're not responsible for everyone's feelings, but now you're angry. You're really angry at other people for whether they actually expected you to be or not, but for the fact that you accommodated yourself to suit their feelings, and now it's everything that sucks is your fault. And this this happened to me, and and now I'm not responsible for your feelings. You're responsible for my feelings, and screw you. And I don't care what you think. And I think that's just part of the process. You can get some courage out of that. But then the final phase is, okay, you have these feelings, you have these needs, and that's how you meet them. Understandable, not my problem, but I'll help if I can. I have these needs, I have these feelings, and I'm going to live them out however I can without hurting you. And that's functioning.
Yeah.
That's funny to see that reflected.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to put this phrase, I don't even know how to say it, pure aternaris. It's a Jungian term, or Peter Pan syndrome, basically like fear of growing up and taking responsibility. And I found that this week when I was going through that anger. And so, I knew that I was just feeling anger and I'm like trying to take responsibility, but reading about this, it was really confronting. It's like, oh, wow, there's my patterns. There's how I don't want to take responsibility and all the things. And it is just helpful, be like reminder to take responsibility and keep moving forward. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's all just part of the process.
He understands. He's got it.
Yeah. It sounds like I need to be reading more Jung. It seems like every piece and part of your journey, he's got.
I'm a young evangelist, actually.
That's great, man. I'm baffled at myself that I've never read Jung, because some of my favorite people, they would credit their reading of Jung to a big part of their understanding of the world. Okay, another question about the territory. What is on the horizon for you? So what journeys are you starting? What projects are coming up? Where are you looking to?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I've recently, I say re-picked up is my dream of writing a fiction novel. I was able to have a session with a writing coach and really help me hone my idea of a general idea of what I wanted to write and like how I'm going to go about that. And so, it's really removing a lot of perfectionism and all the things, and just like giving myself some space every day, not even to write, but just to sit there and allow what comes up in the space. And, it's been a big dream, and like, I think what Spirit has called me to for a long time since I was young, even before coaching and all the things. And so, who knows how long it'll take or where it'll go back. I'm excited to like allow myself to listen to Spirit and like go down that path. So that's one thing. And, I've got lots of ideas with life coaching as far as like retreats or collaboration with other people, or utilizing energy healing or meditation, or developing an ebook or group coaching, different ideas. And, we'll see where that goes or what manifests or what doesn't. But I'm excited.
Yeah, man. Yep. Like as I would expect, based on all our similarities, you are an ideas man, and you're full of ideas. And that's really joyful. But the real joy comes from when you feel like you're finally actually walking one of those many paths you see laid out before you. And I'm stoked that you're getting to do that for a dream you've had for a long time. That's awesome, man. That's a sign of growth, and I'm just stoked for you.
Thank you.
To sort of close off this call a little bit, looking, I use this phrase in the Diary of a CEO guy on his podcast. He's great. Love his podcast. I've noticed he's used this phrase a few times, sort of taking the 30,000 foot view. So stepping up, stepping back, and looking at your map as a whole, looking down at that. What is sort of one key insight or idea that you would want to leave a listener with from your map, especially someone who has that same yearning or seeking that drives you, that desire to become who you are, that sense that there's something within you to be unleashed. What's a really core insight that you would want to give?
Yeah, I think it's how to summarize it, but really pursue yourself and pursue God. And again, that there's a term, but pursue the experience and relationship with the spirit, with yourself. And don't give your power away to other people or what they say or you're supposed to be or where you're supposed to go. Don't give yourself away to symbolic portions of reality, portions of the element. It's a Buddhist little analogy there, but just go what actually gives you contentment and joy in the long run, what really satisfies your soul, and your body really knows and can feel that deep inside, and really pursue that, and the transrational beyond the rational mind, the symbolic, the artistic, the even divine madness. Jung really goes into that, beyond the orderly. You have to really let yourself surrender to that, and miracles will happen.
So you're looking at your map, right? And you and the part that you're sharing with the audience is the little note you wrote in the corner of it. Put me down, and engage directly, right? That's beautiful. It's kind of this idea that I encountered recently of signal and noise, where there's all of this stuff coming at us all the time, stuff that we're being told is important or true or we need to think about or deal with or whatever, but only a small portion of that is really it's like a radio, right? It's like that's all the vibrations, but only a small part of that is actually the signal. It's the relevant part. It's the part worth tuning into. And I love that that's you find that through a direct experience, a non-intellectual experience of something coming from within you or from out in the world, but not from people's mouths, and not from an idea. So awesome. I totally back that, and I really, really appreciate that thought, Kendall. Thank you for coming on the podcast. It's been really nice getting to know you, and I hope I get to see you a bit more on Mindform. You've joined us now, so
Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I really appreciate the experience or the opportunity to come on. So thanks to Ryan, thanks to you. You've been an awesome host, and I love how we're in sync we are and in tune. And looking forward to getting to know you and other people more. Yeah,
awesome. Cheers, Kendall. Okay, thank you very much. Have a great evening.
All right, have a good one.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Mindform Podcast. I'm Ryan A. Bush, founder and author of Designing the Mind and creator of Mindform. Mindform is an exclusive community and training platform for sculpting your psychological software. Members get access to a group of like-minded psychotechs, including all of our guests on this podcast, gamified growth tools, events and retreats, and a collection of transformative programs for mental health and self-mastery. You can learn more and apply to join at mindform.io/podcast. I hope to see you inside.